Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 419, and today we're doing battle with Jinx Kennen. And so, a touch of a disclaimer before we start. There has been rumors, thoughts, feelings abound as to whether or not there's going to be a hotfix patch in terms of Siren Song. I'm recording this video before Riot would say anything about that, and so as this video is released, if something has happened, then great. But I don't have too high of expectations for that. I don't think we're going to see a hotfix. I don't think Siren Song has been so oppressive to where it needs to be immediately fixed. And I think that this is only really a point of discussion since we saw the concurrent timelines nerf in the last month, right before the Runeterra Open came forth. But if it happens, interesting, neat. If it doesn't, interesting, neat. Either way, Kennen Jinx is still going to be a reasonable deck in the meta both ways. It's a deck we featured here recently in a Ruthless Rumble a couple of videos ago, and it's a deck that I'm probably going to be taking to the Runeterra Open here a couple days from now. And so, at its core, this is a very aggressive deck. It's got this big collection of 1-drops in it, and it's going to follow this play pattern to where we just try and flood the board, attack for as much damage as we can. We're going to throw our units away, giving away card advantage to our opponents just for the sake of dealing damage, and then try and close out the games with burn. And so fairly simple, fairly standard game plan for these burn style decks, but the place where this comes in terms of allowing you to do that is the value that we're going to be getting out of Returno Wrench and the value that we'll get out of Kennen. And so this deck does have a pretty heavy discard element to it. It's got the Electro Harpoon, the Blowback, the Parts Made Whole, Squeaker, and Zonite Urchin, all cards that are focused in on the discard themes. And we're not actually discarding real cards here today, right? We have the Kennen who can come down, generate the Mark of the Storm, discard that off, and then we have the big card coming out of Heart of the Huntress and Returno Wrench that gives us the free discards as well. And so as we tie ourselves back to that strategy we're initially talking about, where we just attack with all of our units, throw them away, and then try and finish the game off with burn, Returno Wrench is what really allows us to pull off that kind of strategy. If on the first turn we play a Zonite Urchin, discard a Returno Wrench, and attack, opponent doesn't block because they don't have any units, then we get to deal 3 damage. Next turn we just kill off our unit, get the wrench back in hand, equip it onto somebody else through a discard and attack. We're still able to get impact damage in through these themes as long as the Returno Wrench is hitting the board and hitting some units. And so it's not too crazy to think that we can't attack with a few 2-1s. Opponent doesn't have enough units on board to block, so they take some damage. We get some Returno Wrench based impacts, and then that can ideally slowly chip away at the opponent's health until they're down to about 6 or 7 or so, to where we're able to just burn them out with blowbacks and mystic shots. And so that's the big idea and the core of the deck. The thing that really surprised me with this one was the value of Kennen. We made a brief moment of description of talking about his Mark of the Storm as something that we can generate in hand and then just discard away. And he does an incredible amount of work in this format, between being a small quick attacker that can typically survive against all of the units coming out of the Fizz decks. Then he generates the Mark of the Storm. We can discard that to an Electro Harpoon or something. And then his flip in the Lightning Rush is very useful as well. If opponent has a the Targon empowered lifesteal bro is that runs around so much these days, if you're able to lightning rush the unit away that he's attempting to damage, then your opponent won't get to gain any health. And so a lot of big value coming out of Little Kennen. Very useful card, lots of fun. And so that's the deck. That's what we're going to be doing battle with today. I know the pay to win price has been paid up on this one, so we are good to go ahead, jump on into battle. Right, match has been found. See if it's not going to be an exciting one. It's always exciting when you're throwing down a bunch of units, doing some attacking, not doing bullshit like Seraphine or Sump Monuments. Oh my gosh. The Sump Monument has really started to pick up steam. This is what we're going to be running into here, is the Sump Monument deck. I feel like this is arguably the largest mistake Riot has made in the past year in the release of Sump Monument. I have the full belief that the release of Siren Song was so important to the format and having a healthy Runeterra Open come up because the Sump Monument is so degenerate. Like It's just I don't know how to explain this, but here's the thing I have with Sump Monument. And so if we look at the collection of puff cap cards, right, there are the puff cap cards that do 3 puff caps and the ones that do 5, right? So as far as the ones that do 5, you have Teemo putting them in the deck, and then the mushroom clouds that all of the cards generate. Everything else pretty much does 3, right? So the strike units, the guy that when you cast a spell, he shuffles 3 in the deck. Everything else at that point does 3. And so it's very odd and strange to me that the Sump Monument is at a 4. And so what that kind of says to me is like someone at Riot actually physically played with this card. At some point, they said, wow, this game was so much fun. We really want this card to be in the set, but it needs to be tuned a little bit, right? It either needs to deal more damage because 3 isn't enough, or it needs to deal less damage because 5 is too much. But there's been literally groups of people at Riot that played this card and said, wow, I'm having fun with this. I had so much fun with this card that everyone needs to be playing this card and having fun with this. We need to definitely release it and get it out there to the world. And God, it has just been brutal to me. I have no want or desire to have the Sump Monument in play, and it's just one of these cards that is going to just be such an RNG festival and really high profile games that it strikes me as one of those things that was meant to be a Path of Champions card, and now people have kind of figured it out, and it's going to be making its way into Constructed in a very painful way. So we'll see. I hope I'm wrong with it and it's just the flavor of the day, but my experience with the card has been quite abysmal. And as we play decks like Kennen Jinx, your opponent can go down to like 4 and then just not die. Like they have ways to just soak up all the damage that would be coming through. And yeah, it's savage. It's so savage. All right, I think we have to protect our health here. We do at least get to take the Chump Wump off of the board. Should be able to continue on for a little bit more damage next turn, but I'm not feeling too great about this. We haven't really done enough damage this game, and then we're going to get to the spot in the later game to where opponent's going to get down to about 6, and they're going to play a Sump Monument, and then we just can't win the game from that point. So, we'll see. I've been right once or twice in my life. We'll see if that's the kind of thing that brings itself in this game. But whew, I think this card was a bigger mistake than Siren Song. But we're getting some of these chip damages in. Maybe the opponent just doesn't have it here. Who knows? Let's see how it goes. Almost about to get our Jinx online though. Got at least a lot of ways to get some damages in. Alright, Clump of Wumps comes down. Continue on with the Clockling. We don't... I guess we kind of have the tools to take a second Returno Wrench. It's just like at this point, I'm ultimately so worried about the Sump Monument coming down and us not being able to deal enough damage that I worry about picking up cards like Mystic Shot. It's nice to have the recurring damage and the Returno Wrench. I just don't think we need more than one at this point, though. It's going to make it a little bit more challenging to activate our Jinxes. Looking to take the little dum-dum off the board, and then next turn, assuming he doesn't add any units to the board, there we go. I'm ready to have some fun now. Fucking dumb. But we get to see if we can at least chunk in a bunch of open attack damage.
This feels right.
All right, the wallop coming through, preventing a few puff caps from hitting the old opponent, but so what are we at? About less than a damage a turn. Oh, this card is so obnoxious. It's the thing that gets me, right? There has to have been a situation at Riot where people played against each other and said, this is fun. Like, we're having fun right now. Like, we're completely editing the way a game was flowing, right? You're kind of flowing down the river of the game, and you just fucking give them the sharpest exit to the right that you can. That's what happens when the Sump Monument hits the board. Oh, it's just... Like, I think back to, like, Magic's history as to where they've come out with cards like Skull Clamp, right? The thing that happened with Skull Clamp is it was giving a unit +1/+0, and then it still had the same thing. Then when the unit dies, you get to draw 2 cards. And they were kind of like, it's not as exciting enough. We need to enhance the equipment a little bit. This set kind of sucks. And so let's just bump it a little bit. And so they bumped it without testing it, and that's how we got the obnoxious card that Skull Clamp is. Like, I just feel like in this space to where the Sump Monument is at 4 instead of 3 or 5, people at Riot physically played this card and said, this is fun, and this is what we're going to release for the people to come out and enjoy. Like, it blows my mind that it made its way out. I know I've been bitching about this for probably about the past 8 minutes, but well worth it. Well worth it, I think. I hope the intern sends this one right up the flagpole and gets this nonsense card out of here. But cool. Opponent drew some cards, literally took 0 damage off of that. Pretty cool. So the way that this has also gone is we hit for 5, right? Under normal circumstances, we would have taken our opponent from 12 to 7, but they have drawn 2 cards, naturally taken 0, and then they've time tricked and taken 1. And so it's just fucking obnoxious. I don't know how else to put it. But we're out here having fun, you know. We're having good times. Good times abound. I'm gonna take the Puffcap Peddler off the board. At least get a big attack in next turn. Maybe 3 turns later we'll have our opponent down to 8 or so. Can't wait to find out. Can't wait. Let's see. Let's discard some wrenches. Might get one of them to come back into hand. Looks like kind of a free discard. We need to just empty out our hand at this point. We maybe should have just let the unit die and then just replayed it naturally, but I think this is okay. Let's see. Yeah, let's get these on board. We need to empty out our hand for Jinx. Oh, Teemo, you're not attacking, my friend. Alright, let's roll the dice and see what happens now. Can't wait to find out. Let's see, we'll get a wrench in. I want to get a Death Rocket this turn, and so we're gonna...
Don't those fools know I own this city?
Which one's he going for? Activate? Cool. I hope we get condensed here. Nice.
Oh, they found
Fucking
me.
obnoxious. This game exactly what I'm talking about with Sump Monument.
Thank you for this lesson.
I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. It's I think that was the perfect example game up to where, you know, we under normal circumstances you would have been kind of in it, and then it's just completely taken away by the Sump Monument. It's fucking obnoxious. All right, on to the next one. I hope we get more of this, because that was certainly fun. That was certainly fun. Oh my god. All right, into the next game though, up against the old Fizz deck. We just want to get started out here as much as we can in the early game aggression space, and so we'll keep the Urchin, the Wrench, and the Yordle Squire. Pretty decent start, at least with the Urchin coming down, discarding the Wrenches. Opponent most likely going to have a unit to add to the board to stop the Urchin, but we're getting some good cycle in here. We'll still get some points of damage in. Not going to get some damage in against the Soldier, but it's okay. Wrench number 2.
Anything else?
Wrench number 3. I guess we're gonna be returning them hard. Gonna be returning them hard. And so in the Fizz matchup, I like to take the tiny spears. I think there's a lot of opportunities to where you really want to be picking up the shield. I think people just default to spear, but this is a matchup we certainly want to take spear because Reaver's Row is so relevant. And so if opponent's going to be able to get all the fearsomes on board from the Reaver's Row, we like to be able to give our units 3 attacks so they can punch through for the turn. So we'll see how this goes. Very surprising to see opponent play a naked Divine Clerk. This feels like it's probably the misplay of the day. Usually don't want to run these clerks out unless they have some stats. It is the literal key card of this matchup. And I'm very curious as to why opponent decided to just run it out. Like, even if you have a Siren Song in hand, you'd ideally be making this the 4/4 off of the Husk. So they either just have an additional one, or they don't understand the importance of this unit in the match. Well, get a big attack in next turn. He's going to get a unit off of the Reaver's Row, so we can hook that unit out of combat with the Flame Chompers, and then we'll have the Wrench on board for something else. And so I do want to discard the Returno Wrench first. Don't want the Wrench landing on the Flame Chompers. It's not, always the end of the world, but we want to get that point to impact damage if we can. And if you have 0 attack on the Chompers, you can't impact that way. Alright, combat time. Put the spear on a wrenched unit. That might be a mistake because we don't really want the wrenches back in our hand at this point, right? We want to get this Jinx on board and start doing death rockets, and if the wrench comes back, we're not going to have a way to discard it. But you typically want your opponent killing off your wrenched units. I think this is just a spot to where we didn't really want it. He should have said no, thank you. We'll just physically play one here. If we can get Jinx on board, that would be nice. It's gonna be nasty. I don't want to deal with this Divine Clerk. Not gonna be able to deal burst damages out in front of this. Get the Death Rocket before it can attack. Oh god, he's just gonna blow it up. Yep. Looks the wrong unit as well. Oh, well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not the wrong one. The spot that I'm usually thinking of here is the Flame Chompers, right? If you hook the Flame Chompers, then on our attack next turn, we're going to be looking to hook the Divine Clerk way out to the right so we can potentially deal damage before he gets to block. So he just kind of killed off a worthless unit. He may be next leveling us here in the sense that he sent the wrench back to our hand and we can't use our Jinx, and so maybe we're getting bamboozled, but I don't think that that's probably the case. Let's see, can we get any of this stuff going? We have the mana to play all of them. We could technically look to go for Mecha Forcers, but I'm leaning towards probably the Smash and Dash just to get 2 points of impact, although the impact probably isn't going to matter. Like, he does have this Clerk on board and we could kill it with the Mecha Forcer, but I don't think... I think realistically if we go into the next turn, we've just lost the game anyways. So, we'll see. Don't think we're going to be able to get in enough damage here.
Discipline and conviction.
Okay, GG. That's a frustrating one. I don't know what was more frustrating. The sequencing of that game to where we just absolutely could not handle a Divine Clerk that was played so poorly, or if the Sump Monument game before it was the one that's more of a more of a zinger, but whew, I can already tell I'm in for a day. I'm in for a day today. This is gonna be a fun one. Get ready for bitchin' with Bust. That's what it's gonna be for the next 40 minutes of your life. Bitchin' with Bust, just sitting around complaining about stuff. Ooh. But I think you can see it in that game as to where at least the strength of the Divine Clerk is and the importance that he has. And seeing how that one big Divine Clerk just completely annihilated everything that we did should give you a little point of reference as to how not optimal it is to just throw that singular 2-1 on the board when it's such a very important unit to actually come out and have access to. So, little knowledge nugget for you. You get to see it in action, but from the opposing side of the table. I'm always glad to give you all a little knowledge nugget, you know? Oh shit! I meant to play the Forge Chief. That was a whoopsies. We'll see if we end up getting punished for it here, but I wanted to get the Forge Chief on board, and this would have actually been a pretty reasonable spot to just open attack and hang on to the Kennen. Like, we have enough discardable stuff to where he's not as super important, right? We have all these Returno wrenches as it is, but I definitely meant to play the Forge Chief first and then potentially open attack here.
Let's go, people.
I just need a discardy card. Squeaker, you're a good help. Good friend, turning up when you're needed. Looks like our Kennen's about to get aced. What do we got in here? I really just want the cheapest one. There's a bit of interest in taking the Shadow Tech Walker. Opponent is playing Ahri, but I think it's probably pretty likely that they're just going to have access to bounce spells, and if they're bouncing stuff back, I kind of want the cheaper plays. So I'm leaning towards just taking the Salty Spinner. The Professor Von Mech does give us some opportunities in the sense of just picking up all of those cheap plays, but already having Jinx in hand, I don't think I want to just give up on it like that. I can't imagine this is a good Mystic Shot. Typically in this match, you want to, like, if you're going to try and kill a Kennen, you want to wait until your opponent's putting spells on the stack. And then if they've got a spell on the stack, you can try and force them at least into another one. So it's a little bit more expensive to get these things going. There's a bounce spell. The Gruesome Theater wouldn't have hit our other unit, but who knows what we would have rolled the dice into, and so I think he was still the safer play at the end of the day. All right, here comes the retreat. We'll try our Mystic Shot now. Does not have an additional bounce. Okay. Things are happening. Things are happening. Ooh, so much lifesteal today, man. I don't want to be seeing all this lifesteal. That's nasty. Got the deny. Okay. At least we know what we're getting ourselves into. Prime the pumps, Tito? Who the fuck is Tito? Is that what the Squeaker just said? Alright, well, reasonable draw and blowback. We'll try and take the Tasty Feyfolk off of the board. Even if it doesn't work, it should get him to spend a bunch of mana here, and then we can follow up with Jinx. Jinx, unfortunately, doesn't have the mana to play a Death Rocket this turn, but the remainder of the things happening here aren't too terrible. So is it still worth attacking into this thing? Let's see if he spends some mana. Like, if we attack with the Forge Chief and he blocks with the Fey Folk and then has a combat trick, that feels pretty terrible. But these other units are kind of worthwhile. It's probably kind of worth just to send it in and see if we can't get a takedown on the Fey Folk, but Jinx may be our only safe attack here with the quick attack. I have to imagine, though, if we attack with Jinx, he might just ignore and take the damage and keep the Fey Folk, but maybe that's not so terrible.
We're doing it!
I'm trying to think of what other combat tricks they would realistically have here. Like, if you're going to have another Wuju style or something. Maybe we can just fight through this, even if he's got more tricks. He's gonna like gain 8 if he has a second Wuju style. Just a gruesome theater. Okay. That seemed like a reasonable outcome. We got to try and empty out this hand. It's a bit of a tall order. I think we can do it. Can't really do it if opponent sends Jinx back. Okay. Let's just take the cheap one here. I think we want Bouncer and Bolt. We can hook an opposing unit out to the right if we need to. We're looking strong. You don't have to have a unit to target with the Electro Harpoon. You can just play it and deal damage to the face. Sure. Looking pretty good now. Just get all that extra damage out here. It's kind of sweet. Alright. Unlocked a victory. I didn't think we were going to be able to do it today. Are we going to be able to get salty today? Absolutely. Victory? I wasn't so sure. I wasn't so sure. Alright, GG, my friend. Alright, how are we starting here? Pretty reasonable start. We're up against the Evelynn deck this time, not the Fizz one, and so we do want to come out with as much aggression as we can. It's a, kind of sucks to be discarding stuff out to your Kennen, or losing out on the Mark of the Storm with your Kennen, I should say, but it's not the end of the world. Let's just hang on to this. He's a pretty strong attacker here, and we're about to pop off with some of these cards. I like hanging on to the Boom Baboon. It lets us manipulate that Divine Clerk just a little bit. So, we'll see how it goes. Kennen just says, "What up? I'm here to aggro. I know what I'm about." I know what I'm about. All these Returno wrenches. You guys got to send it in. If he plays the Siren Song this turn, I do want to harpoon out the Husk. Limit the strength of the unit that's going to be coming back out. Maybe let us keep it into blowback range. And also, if he's going to play Evelynn next turn, she's not going to have any of those sweet husks to be munching on. No? He's got a fresh husk to be munching on. We're getting them pretty low, though. I mean, we've got them down to 12. We do have a Flame Chompers to potentially hook a unit away from combat, and so we're getting pretty close on that burn plan. Evelynn's kind of ignorable here, mainly worried about a Divine Clerk coming in.
Come on, people. Let's make tomorrow today.
Okay. So we'll get to punch in for a bit. This is that unfortunate space I was talking about, though, where we discarded our cards backwards there. I meant to mention this earlier, and I can't remember if I did. We should have discarded the Returno Wrench first, and then discarded the Flame Chomper second to guarantee that the thing lands on one of the proper units, right? So we should be taking opponent here to 4 instead of 5.
Let's go, people!
Can be extremely relevant in some of these matches. Alright, what you got for us? That's tough. It's like we kind of want the burn, but I wanted our burn to be like a blowback. Like, there's a good chance Electro Harpoon just doesn't kill anything. I think I'm just going to go with the Zonite Urchin. I feel like it represents the potential for the most damage here.
When I allow you.
Boom, baboom. Well, we can empty out our hand. Kinda positive. Evelynn's not that scary. We can attack around her. Divine Clerk is the one that we are ultimately worried about.
Mind if I slip into something a little more painful?
So do we want to harpoon this domination? Like, I think that the chances of opponent attacking with Evelynn and attacking with Vora are almost 100%. But I'd kind of like to try and bait this just a little bit to see if he'll drop a Divine Clerk. Well, ooh, no, that would have been kind of nasty, right? He would have just his Divine Clerk would have got the bonus off of this Husk. Oh shit, we just hit the wrong... God damn it. I had that Husk on my brain. We should have been hitting Domination. Domination is the one that, if we get the kill with it and then hook Evelynn out of combat, we're in pretty tip-top shape. Oops. we can't be having a bitch fest if we're gonna be that sloppy. But
Don't waste my time.
do as I say, not as I do, then everything will be just fine.
Watch your backs!
Alright. Incoming Boom Squad.
Crawl.
We only lost out on like 5 damage that we should have been doing in here, and so hopefully it doesn't end our day. Alright, we missed the 1 on the Flame Chomper thing and then didn't kill off the Domination. That would have been good for 3 damage at this point. These aren't even like high level plays. This is just being sloppy. And so definitely got to get that cleaned up. Uh-oh. Seems to have a response of some sort. I was just expecting the concession, you know? It's got a Hush coming in. I don't think that does anything. Oh, this definitely doesn't do anything. There's no burst or fast spells that you can hit off of an invoke. Maybe if you have Senna on the board, you can do some nonsense, but whew, victory unlocked just barely. GG. Next battle. Any misplays from now on or to this? Got the thing up here. Went and donated a little blood in between in between games. So if we play poorly from here on out, it's not due to my skills, my talents. I got a pint less of blood in me. I don't have enough blood flow to play well for the remainder of the day, and so that shit was stressful. I don't know how many times I've done it. I go and do it like 3 or 4 times a year, however often it is. But I get there, and the dude's like, "We have a trainee today. Do you care if we have the trainee stick you?" And it's like, fuck. It's like, okay, I guess. I apparently have wonderful veins. Every time I go, the person's always like, "Ooh, you have the best veins," and it's like, well, I guess, I guess I'm at least good at something, you know. But She did fantastically. I had no reason to be nervous. I've had like so many of those blood drawers, whatever they're called, just mangle the shit out of my arms, and so to have it go that smoothly, I was pleasantly surprised. But all right, back into action. We're up against this dumbass deck today. This is like, I hope this isn't just like the hotness for the next couple of days and people get tired of this Sump Monument deck. It might really just limit us from being able to play a deck that has Mystic Shots in it. I haven't fully decided how I feel about this, but we're out here again. Old Dave Bowes getting at the top of the ladder with this dumbass deck, and now everybody on Twitter is playing it as well, and so I guess this is what we this is the life we live.
And if it helps.
All right, nice collection of dudes. Unfortunately, don't have any good cards to be discarding here. I'll have to pull up the deck list to see. I'm not certain if they have ways to actually deal 3 damage. Like the way the fastest evolution of this deck is that they're all just gonna start playing Aftershock, right? As this mirror match has to just be the absolute dumbest matchup in the fucking world. Like I have to imagine Aftershock gets in the mix pretty quick, and I'd like to know if that's something that we need to be worrying about. I'd like to be able to just throw down Jinx if that's the case. Yeah. We do have 2 copies of Jinx. I think we can probably fairly safely just throw her on the board at this point, but we'll see.
I've always been a fun guy.
This is a bit of a pain without any discard cards. Like the blowback here would be fantastically powerful if we could play it. Like, I mean, we can play it. I just don't want to really be discarding our hand in this spot. Not a terrible bank, though. We didn't really have anything to do. But be able to get some damage chipped in here. Even if he follows up with another unit, we should be able to hook that unit out of combat, punch in for 4, and then next turn, maybe start making a Jinx play with the Death Rockets from there. Gotta dig for that Sump Monument, though. Must be having so many funds over here. Alright, there it is. Good job. Oh, this is just the dumbest card. So what are we at? We're at about half a damage a turn now. Right, let's run out the Jinx and see where this gets us.
Another day in the field.
We'll wait until combat. I don't want to kill the Teemo and then have him play a second Teemo. So we'll take the blowback to take him down. Looks like he's going to spend all of his mana this round anyways.
Success is planting your mushroom trap. Armed and ready.
Alright, so we get the flip. Don't have the Death Rocket mana, but we get the upgraded Jinx. We're ready for a big open attack next turn, maybe. We can definitely hook this clump of wumps out of combat. I don't know. Maybe load him up to 2 damage a turn instead of half a damage a turn, right? Maybe. So yeah, 28 puff caps at this point. This is just such a miserable card to play against. Alright, Squeaker it is. So we need to keep the 1 mana back, right? We're about to have 5. We can take a unit that costs 4 mana or less. Probably just want the Salty Spinner, right? He's got a pretty healthy collection of discards that are about to apply to his stat line.
I have something very special planned.
Alright, spin him up, Salty Bro. Getting up to 5/6, big enough to kill Karina. It's an interesting spot. I think we want to be... that's a good Mystic Shot. I was going to say, I think we want to be hooking the Clump of Wumps with our Flame Chompers. Well, I don't know. I guess that doesn't sound as great. You're just kind of giving them the option as to whether or not they want to do combat with your big unit or if they want to just block the smaller things. But We'll see. It's an interesting spot to get this Karina off of the board, because if she's dead, you can't condense her, right? And so, very reasonable chance Karina just blocks a 2, and then he tries to go for the condense next turn. Alright, so what are we at now? About 3 damage a turn? This is just fucking obnoxious. This is so obnoxious. Alright, hit him for 8. I don't know. It's I just can't decide if it's a space to where we'll ever be able to play a Mystic Shot deck. But we'll put the impact onto Jinx. If she's going to, you know, be getting into combat, it would be nice to get a point of damage in, right? I don't want to be putting the wrench onto one of our smaller units. Alright, so where does that get us? 12 more puff caps to the deck. So he's only at like 3 damage a turn. This is so dumb. Alright, well, let's put some cards on the board, I guess. There's no reason to attack, right? I mean, you don't actually deal any damage, and so there's literally no stopping him from doing whatever he wants this turn. 4 points of Karina damage. Still have to worry about a condense. Can't do anything about it, so whatever. Like, I don't know. I hate to sound so salty about it, but this is just fucking absurd.
Watch your step.
Like, I don't know. Like, I just wonder, like, at what sequence this is supposed to be fun. Like, having this thing on the board. It just makes me not want to play the game, is essentially what it does. It's just such, like, a ridiculously hard tangent from, like, the normalcy of the game that you're playing, right? It's like the give and take of a normal game no longer exists. You have to just deal with this stupid thing on the board. And so it's like, even back in the days of, like, my big problem with it, I think, outside of just like the actual hard tangent to the game, is if you look at a card in Magic like Platinum Angel, that's still like a very similar thing to where it's just not a whole lot of fun to play against. That says, I can't win the game, your opponent can't win the game, I can't lose the game. And then there's cards like Worship that say if you have a unit on board, your life total can't be taken below 1. And so these are cards that, you know, they have a lot of not fun play patterns to it, but they're all kind of interactable, right? Because they're all units. But if you wanted to look at a card like Sump Monument, like what factions are able to actually interact with a landmark, right? You can play PNZ to blow up a landmark. Is the Bilgewater 8 mana thing still in the game? Like there's like 3 or 4 spells within the entirety of the game that actually let you interact with the landmark. Cool, we get to play this match again. But it's just so obnoxious to me. I didn't say it as we were initially getting the video together, but if my people from back in the days of Expedition want to remember what happened at Expedition Trial number 419. That's where we just stopped playing the game and went and played Magic for like 3 months. And just like, oh, well, this is going to be the world we're living in. I don't really want to be a part of it. I don't think I'll take myself to that much of an extreme, but just nothing about this is fun. But that's the one question I want to have the answer to. What dev sat down, played games with these cards, and said, this is fun, I want other people to get to experience this? Like, That's insane. That's one of the kind of famous things that Richard Garfield has said, at least in terms of game design, is he's had, you know, thousands of ideas. They've put together hundreds of games, and you have to be at the point to where you just say, this game's not fun. I don't want to play it. And I feel like that's just this deck all of the time, like literally all the time. That's how it feels to play against this monstrosity.
From a side quest.
I don't think I'm even like being hyperbole here. I think it's just the facts of life with this thing. You shouldn't be killing off our wrench unit. That's a bonus for us. Alright, let's go ahead and take down this Teemo. No need to get the Flame Chompers on board right now. And we do want to keep a burn spell. I think the only thing that... There's two things that really scare you with this match, right? It's getting a flipped hit with Teemo, which you just absolutely never win the game from that point. And then it's going to be the Karinas. Turns out we can't actually do anything about Karina, but in terms of the Teemos, we do want to keep some burn around to make sure we can take him off the board. And so we have the blowback now, so we should be safe for next turn, even though we can't really do anything this turn now. We should probably hang on to the spear. Give us that extra discard power next turn. Really uncertain why he keeps killing our unit with the wrench on it. Imtux should know better than this. I guess it prevents a point of damage, and maybe he doesn't have the monument at this point. But it's very, very surprising to see that be a thing. Get so many free discards out of this. Alright, the Chump Wump's coming through. We're gonna have to get blasted this turn. Not a lot we can do about it. All to 13, that's not the end of the world. So many mushroom clouds now. It's about to get cloudy in here. Rip Kennen. So we can discard the Returno Wrench now. We don't have to worry about Teemo at this point, right? He spent all of his mana. So we can discard the Returno Wrench. That'll go on Kennen. Kennen will die and then come right back to hand. Or the wrench will come back to hand, I should say.
Come on, people. Let's make tomorrow today.
Now we're not taking any damages. Well, we can clean this up a bit next turn. We're still a little bit short of dropping Jinx. I mean, she might just be safe enough in this match. Like, I don't think they're playing Aftershock. It's kind of easy to have a Mystic Shot and another spell at this point, though. But I guess the question starts to be, can we ever win the game if this Jinx is not providing spells for us? And I think that's probably kind of questionable. Could have, I guess, looked to pick up the shield and put the shield onto Jinx, but... It's tough. That's tough, I tell you.
Rule 102. Practice makes perfect.
Here's another fun unit. Alright, I think we just have to stop here. We can maybe get this Ava Achiever off the board before the big mass of Puff Caps hit.
Oh, that's a harvest right there.
Looks like no monument this turn, though. It's gonna load all the Oh, it is good. Well, take that. Take that back, I guess. Take that back.
Jinx stands for Jinx. Durr. Defensive stance.
So we gotta take our block. I guess we could just play the Jury Rig. So what's going to happen with this? If we can play the blowback for 4, but then if we want a death rocket, we can't really do anything from here. And so I think we want to do this. We want to jury rig. We're just going to block dude. Then we're going to blow back onto the Ava Achiever. That'll take him to 1 health. Then we'll get the Death Rocket in hand, use the Death Rocket to take the Achiever off of the board. So it is, you know, a touch scary having this Jinx on the board, right? She's out here just drawing an extra card for us every turn, but we're only at like a little over a damage a turn in terms of Jinx damage, and so I don't think it's too obnoxious there. Alright, opponent's at about 1 damage of turn for Puff Caps. It's incredible. Incredible. So do we actually want to draw cards here? It's gonna be like our last chance to do it. I think it might actually be okay. I don't know. Maybe we need to say like every point counts at this point, but see if we get Karina'd or not.
Excuse you.
There's just, I don't know, it feels like there's probably no way we win this. We can't, it's like we need to do like 30 more damage just to be in the relevant space for getting a kill on the opponent next turn. It's so insane. Like when you're used to be in these spots to where last turn we would have blow back for 3 and then Death Rocket for 3, that's 6 damage. Now this turn we would have just punched in for 5 in terms of units on board and then followed up with another 3 for the Death Rocket. Like the game's just over at that point, right? And just a million miles away from ever getting a lethal. What do we got? About 2 damage a turn worth of Puff Caps. That's what our efforts have afforded us to this point. Cool, he's at 8. Insane. Yep. It's like we've done, I don't know what the calculation would be at this point, but it's like we've done nearly like 35 damage this game, right? And we're nowhere near close to finishing. Nowhere near close. Like, at best, if we high roll, we'll deal like 4 damage next turn. This is just dumb.
The teeth means they like you.
Not surprised to see the aftershocks in this world. Not surprised. All right, well maybe we can get a tie, right? That's how you wanna be living life. Oh my god. Some nerd is gonna have to go back through this game and just count it up. Like, right, on the opponent's previous turn we did 6. On the last turn we would have done 5 from combat, 3 from a death rocket for 8. And then this turn we've hit for 5. Is that 19? Plus the 12 that we already did? I don't know. Alright, let's see if opponent hits for 8. Nope, we drew first. Fun. That was fun. Alright, well, thank Jesus we're at about the hour mark. We can fucking stop playing this game now. And so, let's pull this deck up and talk about it a little bit more. And so, this is the thing that ultimately worries me about the format now, if Sump Monument is going to be a deck. And so, you can't play decks like this into the Sump Monument, right? At what point does Mystic Shot ever do anything in a game with a deck with Sump Monument in it? It doesn't. It does literally nothing. And so, the thing that's like really powerful with this deck right now is you have a lot of decks in this format that just don't do anything for a few turns, right? You play a Siren Song that boosts all of your units for the remainder of the game, but it's a fairly heavy investment in terms of tempo, right? You're spending 4 mana just to boost your units, and then you follow up with a unit, and we can just kind of attack around it and everything, right? This is the kind of classic way that you are attacking the Evelynn deck in this format, in the sense that you just flood the board with units. Evelynn has like a 9/10 tough elusive on the board, and as long as you can deal with that unit being elusive, then you're good to go. You just attack around it and send a bunch of burn to the face. And so that is the kind of classic counter to the Evelynn deck, and that style of Siren Song deck is using this. And so now that the Sumpworks deck makes its way into the format, you can't do this same strategy, right? This strategy is abysmally terrible in the face of the Sump Monument. You just can't play a card like Mystic Shot in this format, right? And so now you're in a spot as to where, what kind of deck can you play that doesn't rely on burn to be effective, doesn't rely on aggression to be effective? That means you have to go up and move towards just bigger units. And now if you're moving into the space to where you're just adding bigger units to the board, what can you do against Zolani, right? Stop and answer me that one real quick. Like I don't know how that's supposed to play itself out in terms of what you're supposed to be looking to do. It's just I don't know. This just strikes me as being like probably devolving pretty quickly into a rock paper scissors format. Like I don't know how quickly these style of decks push their way down through the ladder, right? The stuff that we're seeing across the course of these few videos is always at kind of the cutting edge, and then it takes a week or two for the things to filter down into the diamond style of ladder. But I have ultimate concerns about how these things are about to push forth, because at least for me, these games are just abysmally not fun. And so, hope you enjoyed it. Glad we made it through that one. So I've got to finish up, and so that is going to do it for us today. And so I hope everyone enjoyed the video. I hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. So this is Bustin' Me. Thank you for being here.